Good morning to all. It's really nice to be here. And first of all, I would like to thank you for the invitation to Universidade Católica and Fatima. So it's really a pleasure for BA Glass to be here and give you a perspective about sustainability. First, I would like to say that sustainability, and today we'll talk about climate change. So this will be the topic, but for BA Glass, sustainability is a little bit more than only climate change. Okay, so we are focused on our customers, on our consumers, on our shareholders. So probably you know all about the definition about sustainability, but today let's focus on climate change. So if you don't know who is BA Glass is a glass manufacturing company that we produce containers in glass for bottles and jars. We have more than 110 years of history, so we started a long time ago in Porto with a commercial office, and then in the last 50-60 years we started to grow, especially in Portugal. In the beginning we started with a manufacturing plant in Porto, and then we started to expand. We grew to Portugal. Nowadays we have 3 plants in Portugal. Then we moved to Spain, in Iberia expansion, and then later, really recently, we started to expand to Poland, Germany, and in the last years to the sud-est of Europe. Okay, so Romania, Bulgaria, and Greece. We are 1.4 billion turnover per year right now. We have 12 plants in Europe. We have 25 furnaces. So we have a lot and a huge responsibility in sustainability because we use glass melters to melt our glass. So we have a carbon footprint that we need to understand, and especially after our understanding, we need to have a focus and a plan to reduce it according to our targets that I will explain a little bit later. So it's hard for me because I'm not seeing what I'm showing here, so I'll try to do my best not to look too much to my back. So we produce more than 11 billion of bottles and jars per year, and so we have the decoration processes, so several of our customers are buying our bottles, but also a decoration in the bottles, and we can manage to do that in our facilities, and we are around 4,000 people all over Europe. Okay, so if you allow me, just give me 1 minute just to see if I can do something here. Almost there, sorry. Okay, not working, sorry. Okay, good, so this is our presence in Europe. So I already explained a little bit about this. And these are some of our customers. So if you have glass in your fridge, for example, most probably you will have a bottle or a jar from BA Glass, okay? So it's easy to recognize. It's usually on the heel you can see a logo, and it stands for BA. If you see there BA, that's for a bottle that was produced in one of our facilities. So a very simple explanation about how do we do glass. So most probably you know the main raw material for glass is recycled glass. Okay, so this is the number one. Then we have sand, we have sodium carbonate, calcium carbonate, so these are the most important raw materials for us. If we can do it by recycled glass, that would be great, because the emissions, and that was something that I will recover a little bit later, will reduce significantly as far as we increase our level of recycled glass in our furnaces. Then the second part of the process is the melting. So we do the composition, we do the mixing in our recipe, then we put it inside a melter, a furnace. So in average, our furnaces have the capacity of 200 to 300 tons of glass per day. As you can imagine, if you have 25 furnaces, you can do some calculations about the quantity of glass that we produce every day. Then we have the forming process, so we call it the hot end process. It's where we just run the glass by feeders, and then by gravity we just drop in the molding machines and we do the forming, and we just build up our bottle or our jar. And then the second part is what we named the cold end process. It's where we do all the inspections and we do the palletizing and the packaging through our customers. So going deep now inside sustainability, I prepared the presentation roughly for 25 minutes. So we have half an hour, then in the last 5 minutes I can deliver to you some questions, okay, and I hope I can answer to them, okay? So I'll start with the commitments. So BA Glass understood that there was a huge road in our head. We already started a long time ago working on sustainability, but in the last years we started to realize that we needed to define new commitments, define new targets. And the first one that we already mentioned this morning was that we want to become carbon neutral until 2050. So this is our goal as a company. If you ask me today, I'm very confident and very sure that this will happen even sooner than 2050. Okay, so this will be for sure a goal that will be not updated if you see me in the next years talking about this and the sustainability in BA Glass. But nevertheless, this is our numbers today. So in 2050 we will be carbon neutral, and that road already started. This reduction roadmap that we build up already started a long time ago, because we are not actually newcomers on decarbonization. Okay, we are not newcomers reporting our numbers. So for more than 20 years that we are issuing our sustainability reporting, where we just report our emissions, we just make some highlights about what we are doing and what are our goals, our technologies, and what we want to implement. So, and this is a very important year for us, especially this year, 2023, because we were recognized as in CDP as an A company. Okay, so if you don't know what is CDP, so CDP is Carbon Disclosure Project. It's an organization that rates you for your environmental performance. So actually it gives you also a rating for your water and your forest. So there are 3 topics that you rate. In climate change, we were scored as an A. And we are really proud of this. First, because we were the only company in the glass containers manufacturing that we were in the A score. Okay, our competitors were below A. And also, we are really proud because this is a very short list. So around the world are around 300 companies that have this A score. So meaning that we are being recognized about what we are doing and what is we are planning to do, because CDP scores your behavior, what you are doing, but also what are your plans and what kind of investments you are doing. Regarding investments, just to say something that is very important that we discussed this morning already. So we give a huge importance to science and to the community in the faculties, universities, and researching and development institutes that are all over the world and can support us developing this strategy, okay? And these investments are in the scale of millions of euros. So nowadays, I can give you a good example. We have a project that we invested already 15 million euros in developing a new technology, and this was with a direct cooperation with institutes and universities, okay? So you are very important for us. So you, because I know that many of you are university professors, so you have a double responsibility, a responsibility to develop your young students for the future, because like we talked this morning again, we need to develop them and have a very good and strong knowledge about what is happening, climate change, food, contact materials, contaminations, all that should be very strong, but also in the cooperation with the to help us, because we need it, okay? We need all the help that is possible to develop some of the technologies and some of the things that we have already in our investment plan, and we don't know exactly how we are going to do it. But moving on, so we were recognized as BA Glass for the last 3 years as the most sustainable company in the world for the glass, so also a very important recognition for us. And I'm starting now talking about commitments. So this is something that, okay, nice. We know what we have done in the past. We were recognized for this. So let's talk about commitments and what we plan to do on the future. First, really simple objectives. So these were the first objectives that we wanted to deliver. We want to replace our non-renewable energy by renewable energy. So this was the first target. We want to do it as far as we can, our own electricity based on photovoltaic panels and wind farms. And also we want to increase as much as possible the recycling rate, so the cullet rate, the quantity of cullet is recycled glass that we put inside our furnaces. So this initial target was 70%. So 70% of the raw materials inside the furnace we wanted to be included as recycled glass. We also started, so this was the first commitments. We moved on, we realized that were not enough, so we needed to be more, with more specific objectives. So we started to collaborate, and we joined this Porto Protocol in 2018 in the beginning, so we were a founding member. That we started to make more commitments, more strong and specific commitments for climate change, for reducing. So this was a very important moment for us, mark that after looking and doing this commitment, we realized that we need to do a lot of things, okay? But not only BA Glass, for sure. All the companies started to realize that we needed to make something different and be sure that we have a planet for our future generations. So the final commitment also, and this is really important for us, if you talk in BA Glass, if you talk with someone from BA Glass, for sure, you will talk with passion about what we are doing. And the final, let's say the most recent commitment that we made was for science-based targets. We have already our targets approved by science-based targets, meaning that we know how much we need to reduce in numbers. It's 50% of our emissions until 2045. And this is stated and validated by a very important organization as is Science-Based Targets. And this is a good point for us because we are mainly a company managed by engineers and we like numbers. We like to be very specific about where we are and where we should be, and then we need to realize how we should do it, okay? And this is very important because we are aligned with the Paris Agreement in the more ambitious path. It's 1.5 degrees. And for us, that's critical. And this was the starting point for a change that we started to do in BA Glass in the last years, because we started to have this objective of 50%, and now, as engineers, we need to explain how we are going to reach that 50% at the less investment possible, okay? So we started to develop our sustainability model. We have a sustainability model that is divided in 4 pillars. Okay, the first one is the measurement. So we started to do the measurement. So this was, if you are running or starting a company, or if you are moving to the private, this is the first goal that you need to do. You need to measure to understand exactly where you are about CO2 emissions. And we are doing that for 3 years already. So right now, I'm quite busy because we are closing the inventory of CO2 from last year, from 2022. We need to publish this in our sustainability report. That again, I invite you to go to our website and read it because it's really interesting to read. So this is the first part. We started to measure, and measuring is not meaning that we only measure our direct emissions. So if I don't know how deep you are inside this topic, but the emissions according to the GHG protocol are split in 3 categories: Scope 1, Scope 2, and Scope 3. So Scope 1 is our direct emissions. So this is the emissions that we emit directly from our process, okay? So this is the emissions from our burning on the furnaces for the natural gas are the process emissions, so the raw materials that are based in carbon. We have direct emissions during the process, and we count it in the scope 1. The scope 2 is the emissions for electricity, so the indirect emissions, but it's related to the electricity consumption that is based in non-renewable sources. So we need to count all that emissions and put in our inventory. And finally, the scope 3, it's the indirect emissions coming from our supply chain, and probably the most hard ones to measure, okay? Because it's outside of our control, many of that emissions from the transports, from the production of the raw materials and so on. So this is a huge quest for who's running sustainability in the companies, and this is a good way to start doing something, doing correct measurements and knowing exactly where we are. Okay, moving to the second pillar is reducing. So if you read a little bit this graph or this model, we can say short things, medium things, and then long-term things to do it. Okay, let's read it from left to right like this. On the reduce is something that is the most important, and things that are under our control to do it immediately. For example, any energy efficiency project, if you have something in your mind, today with the prices of natural gas and electricity, makes all sense to take it in account. Okay, and I can tell you that I started a project a few years ago in my company for energy efficiency that we named Wattless. And in the beginning, we just some like 70 to 80 initiatives about energy efficiency reduction. Okay, so it's a benchmarking project that we just join all the companies, all the plants in the group, and then we have external people helping us from the suppliers. And then in the end, we finished with around 80 initiatives. From these 80, 3 years ago, I think we implemented around 20, not much more than 20. Okay, today, we just recover all these initiatives that in the beginning we just put it in our list, and since in that time were rejected due to return of investments and all the money that we needed to do it, they were cancelled. Now I think from these 80 we have 60 already initiatives implemented, so you can have an idea about how the things can move and change. And in this case, it was really very important. From one side, bad because the price increased like hell in the energy. From the other side, we could unblock several things that we had stopped. Of course, important for us is also the furnaces. So time spent for a furnace is around 12 years. So every 12 years, we need to demolish the furnace and we need to build up a new furnace. So it's like these, all the glass plants. And we know every time we are refurbishing a new furnace, we know that we have new technologies, we have new state-of-the-art things that are already available on the market, and we are including that in the furnace rebuild, meaning that every furnace that we started, the energy consumption is much less than the one that was there before, because it was old and we have leaks and all that stuff, but also the technology is quite different. Also the cullet, so I'll just mention a little bit later about cullet. Renewable sources for electricity. Last year was the first year that BA Glass has 100% of the electricity coming from renewable sources. Okay, it was not easy to achieve, but this is also a milestone for us. It is a moment that will not backwards. Okay, so from now on, all our energy from electricity is based on renewable sources. And let me tell you that it's a quite quantity of energy that we have in self-consumption. Finally, transport electrification, so working directly with our suppliers is important. We need to know what they are planning to do, how can we help also, because probably they cannot do this journey alone, like we cannot do this journey alone without our customers, and that it's the same for our customers. We know that they have plans to implement electrical trucks, for example, natural gas trucks, and for that they need our support to do it. Also raw materials, besides cullets, there are raw materials based on carbon, and they are projects that we know that we can reduce the quantity of these raw materials that we can use in our recipe. Also, very interestingly, we can change these raw materials. We are developing alternative raw materials that are non-carbon based that will replace some of these ones, so this is a really important milestone for us. So it's just an highlight about, so we are doing things and the numbers are here, so every year we are having reductions around 2 to 3% of the CO2 emissions. So in the last years we achieved almost 6% or more than 6% of reduction in the CO2. So last year from 21 to 22 we reduced 5% only in 1 year. Okay, so this is only 2021. If I put here 2022, it's only 1 year, 5% of reduction. So this is really important. So just to give you an idea, I explain you about the scopes. Emissions, we have 3 scopes. Mainly our emissions is coming from scope 1 from our direct emissions. So it is mainly the natural gas and the raw materials. We know that we have still 11% of our emissions is in scope 2 of electricity coming from non-renewable sources. By the way, in 2022 I will cut this, I will update this slide in future presentation and we will not have it this 11% here. And then the remaining emissions, 35% is coming from the indirect emissions from upstream or downstream our process. I mentioned this already, so we are investing in technologies, in new technologies. Some will come up soon in the next years, 2 to 3 years, but some, like the carbon capture, is something that we are developing and only in, I don't know, 8, 10 years will come up, okay? But we need to start now this road, okay, to be sure that something will happen and we have the technology that we'll need when we need it. So we commit to invest 270 million euros. Again, this slide is not updated, so we increase this value for $500 million for the next 10 years. So this is our investment plan for decarbonization of our supply chain. I already mentioned a little bit, sorry. So this is a pirate slide, but nevertheless. Scope 2 emissions are coming mainly from self-consumption. So we install photovoltaic panels in all our rooftops, in our warehouses, in our parking lots. Also we are acquiring places around our plants to install the photovoltaic panels. We know that is a really important goal for us. And I have a picture here, 47, if I'm not wrong, yes, 47 football fields. I don't know why it's not appearing, the 47 football fields is the area that we have right now installed in BA Glass. Going for the cullet, we can manage, we have already furnaces that are running with 70% of cullet. So cullet is recycled glass. So why it is so important, the recycled glass? Because every time we increment 10% or 10 points the recycled glass in our furnace, we know that we reduce in 5% our emissions, in 2.5% our energy consumption, and directly will come 5% of reduction in CO2 emissions. So that's why it's so critical and important for us, the recycled glass and have it available for our furnaces. And another thing that is really curious is if you give me 1 ton of recycled glass, I will assure you that I will form again 1 ton of glass containers. Okay, if I don't have this, if I need to go for our virgin materials, raw materials, I need to have 1.2 tons of material to produce 1 ton of glass. So this is the boundaries, 1.2 to 0. And the remaining, by the way, the remaining 200 kilos, roughly CO2 that we are producing. Glass, where is it coming from? So glass is coming from the collecting system. Okay, so all the European countries have already collecting systems, separated wastes. We are really quite interested in the green one, the green container. It's for glass. This is a vision of a closed loop, right? If I'm not wrong, the consumer consumes his container, his yogurt, beer, spirits, whatever. You just put it on a glass container, waste, and then we have a system to collect this glass. Then we have a process that I will explain in the next slide that it treats this glass and puts again on the furnace. But besides this, we have also the breakages, okay, the quality rejections from our customers. So all that bottles, we buy it directly and put it again in our furnaces. And also, we are talking here in Portugal specifically, is that we are, I think, I'm not sure on this number, but we are one of the, if not the biggest glass producer per capita in the world. We have plenty of glass plants here in Portugal, BS3, and our competitors have other 4 or 5 plants, so you can have an idea. For a small country, we have a lot of glass manufacturing plants, and we don't have enough recycled glass for all the 5 minutes. Okay, thank you. I'm just finishing. And so we don't have enough glass for everyone, so we need to put glass in boats and import this glass from countries like UK and Norway. So this is the loop, the closed loop, like we were saying. We collect the glass, we treat the glass, we separate by color. So you have automatic machines, inspection machines that are doing this separation. And then we put it again in our furnaces. We form new bottles, and then we just wait that this bottle is put again in a green container, so we can collect it and put it again in the resorting. And this is infinite. Okay, so this will never end. Okay, so something that we need to be focused and concerned is about the recycling rates. Some countries are better than others. So we are very focused in the countries where we are in. You can see that this is a graph that you can find in FEV. So FEV is our federation for glass. So it's all the glass companies are on this federation, and they are doing all the years this graph showing a little bit how is the cullet rates in the countries. So we took these numbers. We realized that there were some countries that we needed to improve. Portugal is one of them. It's 56%. 39, I have another slide, it says that the new number is 56, so it's really bad. And we need to understand why. We know it already, why? Because especially in the Horeca channel, we were not ready for this boom of tourists that we received in the last years. We don't have enough containers for all these consuming that we were not expecting, or at least the associations were not expecting to have. So we decided to have a very important focus on Horeca channel, and we are a member of this platform, is Vidro Mais, that is supporting to move this shift to increase the recycling rates. And I'm giving the example in Portugal that the things are already improving, but for sure in Romania, Bulgaria, all that countries where we have also parallel projects. So just to finish, the investments are really important. So one furnace costs around 50 to 80 million of euros to build up, and we need to be sure that we choose the correct technologies for this. Also eco furnace. So if I mention that our furnace is run mainly by natural gas today, so 90% is natural gas, 10% is electricity. In the future, it will be the opposite. Okay, and why? Because we are developing this technology that will come out in the next year, so it's very soon. So we will announce very soon our first eco furnace, that we will manage this furnace with around 70% of electricity and 30% of gas, not natural gas, because we are looking into biomethane and hydrogen. So these are the steps that we are considering in our framework. So hydrogen, we are already working in a first project for hydrogen here in Portugal, in Marinha Grande. So you can have a look in that website. It explains a little bit how the process is run. So we will mix with that. We'll start with a mix in our natural gas with hydrogen. In the future, let's see how the things will move on. But in this beginning, it will be just a short portion of hydrogen in the natural gas mix. Also carbon capture, so carbon capture, storage and utilization. So by the way, hydrogen coming from green sources, so we are producing this hydrogen coming using electrolyzers supplied by electricity that is green, so it's important to mention that. Carbon capture is also another closed loop technology. We are still on the developing stage. By the way, I think we already finished. We know how to do it already. We have already our technical documentation how to do it. Now we are just looking for funding because this costs a lot of money. Nowadays, a plant of carbon capture will be the same dimension as our plant. Okay, so it's curious. And this is something that we are working. Sustainable packaging. So we have our own packaging, and also we have important activities that are happening here in the sustainability packaging. For plastics, for example, we are reducing the plastic thickness. In the last years, we reduced 8% the thickness of the plastic that is protecting the pallets to our customers. 8%, right? But this will not stop here. Even with the new regulations, the things that we are talking, we need to move forward and do something different, okay, from what we are doing today. Okay, so just a slide about transport. Upstream, downstream transports are critical for us, and we need to find alternative ways to move our goods and bring the raw materials from our suppliers to our plants. No, I don't know which slide. 2 more slides, Fatima, I promise. Okay, so lightweight project, free slides. Lightweight project, very important. So we need also to work with our consumers. We know that less weight in the bottle means less CO2 emissions. We know that we can go even deeper on that, but it depends about the consumers also, because it's still, there is still that belief of if it is a heavy bottle, it's a better wine, okay? And I think we should also mind our mind. Of course, in some bottles, they are important to be weight, because you need to store it for a long time. But mainly of the bottles that you can see, especially in the supermarket and so on, we can lightweight even more. That glass depends about what consumer wants and is willing to pay. And finally, another important topic for the consumer's perspective is about the color. The color of the glass is critical for CO2 emissions. If you buy a flint, so a white bottle container, not these ones because these ones are reusable, right? So they are great. But if it's white or flint glass, the emissions are 20% more than the colored glass, amber, green, and so on, okay? So this is also something that we need to change in our perspective. We created this pure glass brand that we are promoting, where we are challenging also not to lightweight the project, but also to rethink. If you are willing to buy food and to buy your products in colored glass. So it's not easy. Some yogurts and so on that people like to see the interior of the product. But also there is this strong message that is the emissions in flint are in average 20% higher than in other colors. Okay, so I'm done. I don't know if you want to make some questions about the presentation. I can also give my contact. You can address me by email or whatever, just to make any additional questions.
Thank you. I just have a quick question, actually two. First one will be how would you comment the upcoming, ambitious targets for reuse and refill in the new packaging waste regulation? How it would eventually impact your production or your sustainability performance? And the second, I'm just curious, what about the...
Sorry, packaging, you are...
Yeah, I mean, yes, because,
Sure.
yeah, I mean, I'm talking now about glass as
Perfect.
the packaging. And the second question, just purely curious, because you mentioned a lot raw materials. Could you just give a bit more explanation? I know the sand is apparently, but is it anything else? And how do you assess the sustainable, resourcing of those materials? Because, I mean,
Okay, good
they can be
questions.
also, yeah, okay, thank you.
So first the packaging. Okay, so we just show you some slides about how we are handling with packaging. So we are reducing the plastic thickness. We are using returnable pallets. For example, we are moving from wood to plastic because we know it's better for CO2 emissions. So the impact, I can tell you something like this. The overall weight of our packaging will be around 30 kilos around for pallets. And we are moving 600 to 700 kilos of glass in that pallet. So you can see that the impact of packaging is 20 kilos from 600, 700 kilos of glass. So of course we have very specific actions on the packaging side and the plastics. But I think if you ask me what is our main challenge, it's to reduce our emissions in glass nowadays. Okay, so this is the point now. Of course, we know that we have new regulations, so recycling content in plastic, for example, this is our project nowadays, our initiative is, okay, we reduce the thickness as far as we can. Now we are developing and see how we can use plastic that has a recycling content on the plastic. Right nowadays it's 100% virgin materials, but we want to move, and we are obliged also to do it, to have recycled content in our plastic, and that will come up. It was your question, was that one?
I was thinking more about using the glass as reusable and refillable, because that will basically mean that we have less...
Yes, of course. Yeah, yes, reusable, yes, for sure. It's. We recommend if you want to do a reduction in the CO2, for sure you need to reuse. That's no question. If you reuse a bottle 7 times, probably you reduce around 6 times the CO2 emissions of that bottle, around that. Okay. So, but that depends not only on us. So it's not depends anything on us. Okay. Just if we want to use a real reusable bottle, we just need to increase slightly the weight of the bottle. Not too much, but we need to increase a little bit. Then, it depends about the consumer, if the consumer is ready to buy these reusable bottles, because as you know, if it is reusable, every turn you have on the recycling system, you have the reusable system, in this case, you have the scratches on the heel, especially that the consumer doesn't like too much. So this is another mindset that probably we need to change on the customers, on the consumer side. Is yes, reusable 100%. Reusable glass is the most sustainable package in the world. Okay. So remind me your second question. Sorry, was
about how sustainable is the sourcing of the raw materials.
Yeah, good question. So mainly our emissions, sand, the emissions are very, very low. Almost zero emissions. Recycled glass, it's great, it's really important. So we have 2 blocks for us. It's the sodium and calcium carbonate. So these are the 2 raw materials. They can come from natural sources and they can come from synthetic sources. For example, the sodium carbonate can come from the solvay process, that it's a very, very intensive CO2 emission, and can be from natural sources that is 4 times less emission. So that's a very important process in our procurement. We need to give priority to natural sources on the side of the synthetic sources. So this is something. And then in our furnaces, we realize that we know already that there are some alternative materials that are non-carbon based that can replace one of these raw materials. And actually, we know it because we are already running in 2 plants of our group. Okay, so we started in 1 plant, the results were great, were around 11% of reduction in our CO2 emissions in raw materials, And now we are doing a second run in different plants since last year. So a run that already started in the summer of last year. And the reductions are around 15%. So this is something that we need to keep going, and probably in the future we'll have all our plants with these alternative materials. Sorry, I cannot tell you which ones are right now. It's under secret.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think we can continue this discussion because Nuno will be with us for the rest of the day, and we need to move on. Thank you very much.
Thank you.